This is not a story about travel. This is a story about a girl who finally chose herself. Every city has thousands of people. Thousands of dreams running in different directions. Thousands of alarms going off at the same time. Thousands of people putting on their shoes, picking up their bags, and walking out the door. All chasing the same thing. Success. Security. Stability. The city never stops moving. It never asks you what you actually want. It just carries you forward. But somewhere in that city, in one small apartment, on one quiet floor, there was a girl who wasn't chasing what everyone else was chasing. She was looking for something else entirely. She just didn't know how to find it yet. Her name doesn't matter. What matters is what she loved. She was a graphic designer. She had been one since she was 17 years old, sitting in her bedroom, teaching herself on a borrowed laptop. Every morning she would wake up before her alarm, make herself a cup of tea, sit down at her desk, open her laptop, and disappear. That was the only word for it. She would disappear into her work, into the colors, into the shapes, into the tiny decisions that no one else would ever notice. Should this blue be slightly darker? Should this font breathe a little more? She noticed everything. She would design posters that made strangers stop walking. She would edit videos that made people feel something they couldn't name. She built entire worlds out of pixels. People saw her work and called it beautiful. Her clients were happy. Her portfolio was growing. On paper, everything was exactly where it should be. But paper doesn't tell you everything. Because inside, underneath all the color and the creativity and the carefully organized folders on her desktop, something was missing. She couldn't explain it. It wasn't sadness exactly. It was more like a question she kept avoiding. A door she kept walking past without opening. Her world was beautiful. Her world was full of color and light and things she had made with her own hands. But her world was small. And she had always known it. She had a habit she never told anyone about. Every day during her lunch break, she would push her food to the side. And she would watch travel videos. Not the polished ones made by big travel channels. The real ones. Made by ordinary people with shaky cameras and genuine wonder in their voices. People standing on cliffs saying nothing, just breathing. People sitting on empty beaches at 4 a.m. watching the tide come in. She watched them all. The ocean was the one she came back to the most. She had never seen the ocean in real life. Not once. She had grown up in a city that was nowhere near the sea. And somehow, in all her years, she had never made it there. She would watch those waves crash on the screen in front of her. And feel something move inside her chest. Something restless. The mountains were the same. She had only ever seen them in photographs. Flat and still and silent inside a frame. She wanted to see them breathe. She wanted to stand at the bottom of something enormous and feel small. And the road. The long empty road that went on forever. She had only ever driven inside a city. Stop. Go. Turn. Wait. She wanted to drive in a straight line until the city disappeared behind her. She saved every video. Every photo. Every story. She had folders inside folders. Places she had never been. Things she had never done. It happened on a Tuesday evening. Which is strange because the big moments in life are supposed to happen on more important days. But it was just a Tuesday. It had been raining since the afternoon. That soft, relentless kind of rain that makes everything outside the window look like a painting. She had been working for 9 hours. And somewhere around 8:30 in the evening, she stopped. Not because she finished. Not because she was tired. She stopped because she suddenly couldn't remember why she had started. She looked at the screen. The colors. The careful work. The beautiful little world she had built inside that laptop. And for the first time in a long time, she felt nothing. She closed the laptop. Slowly. Deliberately. Like she was closing a chapter. She sat in the dark for a moment. Just listening to the rain. Then she walked to the window. She stood there looking at the wet city below. The lights blurring in the rain. The people hurrying home. The world carrying on without asking her permission. And a question rose up inside her. A question she had been pushing down for years. A question she had been calling irresponsible. Unrealistic. Selfish. What if I just go? Not someday. Not next year when I have more money. Not when I feel more ready. Not when the timing is perfect. Because she had spent years waiting for the timing to be perfect. And it never was. It never is. She stood at that window for a long time. And then something shifted. Something quiet and permanent shifted inside her. She walked to the wall where her travel photos were pinned. She looked at all those places she had saved but never visited. She put her finger on the map. Right on the coast. And she said it out loud for the first time. Now. What if I go, now? She didn't make a list. She had always been a person who made lists. Lists for everything. Grocery lists. To-do lists. 5-year plan lists. But not tonight. Tonight she just went to her cupboard and pulled out her old backpack. The green one she had bought years ago for a trip she never took. She laid it open on her bed. And she thought about what she actually needed. Not what she thought she should bring. Not what would be responsible or practical or sensible. What she actually needed. Her camera. Because she had been seeing things her whole life that she wanted to remember. And she was done letting those moments pass without catching them. Her laptop. Because her work was not separate from who she was. She wasn't running away from her life. She was taking her life with her. Her journal. The small one with the blue cover that had been sitting empty on her shelf for 2 years. She had been saving it for something important. She picked it up and put it in the bag. This felt important enough. She zipped the bag shut. And stood up. She looked around her room. The desk. The wall of photos. The tea mug. The familiar quiet of a space that had held her for a long time. She smiled. Not because she wasn't nervous. She was nervous. She smiled because she was doing it anyway. Because she knew that the girl who came home from this trip would not be the same girl who left. The next morning she locked the door behind her. She stood on the street with her backpack on her shoulders. And she took one long, slow breath. Somewhere far away the ocean was waiting. It had been waiting for her whole life. And tomorrow, for the very first time, she would finally see it. If her story feels like yours, you are not alone. Subscribe and walk this journey with her. Episode 2 drops in 2 days. The ocean is waiting.